407 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty, and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Abraham Lincoln declared these famous words on the site of the Battle of Gettysburg, where thousands of Americans died fighting for equality. His Gettysburg Address showed his dedication to the cause of ending slavery and achieving equality for all men. Abraham Lincoln has been consistently regarded as one of the greatest U.S. presidents in history. Today, I will cover some examples of his greatness, highlighting his humble beginnings and personal achievements, and how his strong principles helped change the course of history. This is why he is deserving of praise. Abraham Lincoln lived a difficult life. He was born poor, with his mother and sister dying by the time he was a teenager. His first love died before they could get married, and when he finally did marry, 3 of his 4 children died. On top of it all, he suffered from clinical depression. Now, he was self-educated and was an avid reader, and often searched for any new books he could find. He used this knowledge to eventually practice law in Springfield. He then moved on to become a Whig Party leader, an Illinois state legislator, a member of the United States House of Representatives, and finally the President of the United States. While he was in legislation, he took a stand for mistreated races such as African Americans and Mexicans. He was highly outspoken on the issues of the Mexican-American War. The war had begun with the Mexican slaughter of American soldiers in a territory disputed by Mexico and the U.S. President Polk insisted that the Mexican soldiers had invaded our territory and shed the blood of fellow citizens on our own soil. Lincoln demanded that Polk show Congress the exact spot on which blood had been shed and prove that that spot was on American soil. Another instance of Lincoln's forthright nature is in the case of Dred Scott, where the Supreme Court declared that blacks were not citizens and derived no rights from the Constitution. Lincoln denounced that decision and said, "The authors of the Declaration of Independence never intended to say that all were equal in color, size, intellect, moral developments, or social capacity, but they did consider all men created equal in certain inalienable rights such as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Abraham Lincoln came from nothing, with death and hardship following him his entire life, yet he grew to be a respected man who stood for values that not many others would defend at that time. Lincoln's values were steadfast and authentic, which allowed him to achieve many great things. Lincoln also had a way of making people feel like they really mattered, regardless of skin color. Frederick Douglass once observed of Lincoln, "In his company, I was never reminded of my humble origin or my unpopular color." Lincoln had this effect on people because he genuinely believed in equality. Evidence for this is found in his closing paragraph of his second inaugural address, which begins, "with malice towards none and charity for all." This belief enabled him to make confident decisions in the trials he had to overcome during his life. Trials such as the Civil War, the deciding conflict between the northern and southern states over slavery. As many as 850,000 individuals lost their lives, more than any other war before or since. Lincoln ended the bloodshed by enacting the Emancipation Proclamation, which declared slaves to be free in the 10 southern states. Lincoln's comment on the signing of the proclamation was, "I never in my life felt more certain that I was doing right than I do signing this paper." It is evident that he lived what he believed. These strong morals allowed him to take a stand and ultimately abolish slavery. Abraham Lincoln has been consistently regarded as one of the greatest U.S. presidents in history. From a childhood of poverty and hardship, he rose to become the President of the United States and changed the course of history. He was an extraordinary man who stood for what was right and deserves our utmost praise and admiration.